In the first paragraph, author says that timelines are useful to teach history. They are useful classroom tools, but they are myopic, which means they are short-sighted in representation of history. They are not holistic. Okay. So he points out a flaw in timelines. In the second paragraph, author says the most common timeline in United States, WAK, World Almanac for Kids, stresses more on dates than on the events. So basically the focus is on the dates rather than the events. Okay. And the last two paragraphs are important. Author makes a case here. He makes a strong statement. He says, it is important for us to also understand the implications of these timelines. They also send an impression that, number one, events chosen must be significant. That is why they have been chosen. But author says there is no clear thought, however, why these events have been chosen at all. Second, timelines also suggest that the representation of events is official. This is the official stand. The government agrees. This is the government stand on events. Third, timelines also imply that the events are independent. So if on a particular date, this particular incident is written, this event happened, and on another date, this particular event happened, they also, in a sense, imply that these events were independent, which author actually says, is not the case always. That's what he's implying. Read between the lines. Author says these are the implications of timeline, which are not, right, basically. Okay. The next implication is that only one significant event occurred in a year. And the final implication is that American history is mostly about wars. So these are the implications of these timelines, author says. And then he concludes by saying that timeline is a dangerous tool for classroom teaching, which means he says all these implications are, fallacious. They're flawed somehow. These are not correct implications. Timeline is a dangerous tool because it assumes that students will be able to see through these false implications and they will not really believe them. They will be able to see through them essentially. So all in all, in a nutshell, author is against, he's not wholeheartedly in favor, let's just say. He's not wholeheartedly in favor of using timelines as a classroom tool for teaching history. That's the idea. Okay. Question number 7. The author implies which of the following? Option 1, dates are not important in history. No. Author says events are more important than dates. He implies, in fact, that events are more important than dates. Timeline, the problem with timeline is it emphasizes upon dates more than on events, which means he's not saying dates are not important really, but maybe events are more important than the dates. So this is factually incorrect, distortion of fact. Option 2, historical events are complex. Author does imply that historical events are complex and they're always interconnected. Now, this is an extreme word. Author does imply that historical events are not independent. That's a false implication of timelines. So they're not always independent, but he does not say they're always interconnected either, but there could be a connection. So always is extreme. Option 3, implicit messages can be as important as the explicit ones. Absolutely correct. The last two paragraphs are about implications only, implicit messages, right? A study of American history that does not include wars is incomplete. Now again, this is a fact that author criticizes. Author says it appears through timelines as if the entire American history is about wars. And he's not happy with it. The tone is that of disappointment or criticism. That's what he says. Uh, that is why he says that this is a dangerous, timelines are dangerous tool. So author does not believe that study of American history is incomplete without the study of wars. If at all he believes the contrary, he thinks that wars are, maybe given undue importance in American history. They should not be given as much importance. It appears that the entire history is about wars. So this is, in a sense, opposite to what we need, contrary to what we need. Okay. The author's attitude towards timelines can best be described as, we need a negative word, and we need a word, to be precise, we need a word which means critical. So he's not wholeheartedly in favor of timelines. So let's look at it. Option 1, condescending and impertinent, too much, extreme. He's not insulting timelines. He's calling them inadequate. That's all. So condescending is insulting. That's too much to say. Suspicious and resigned. Okay. He might be suspicious, but he's not resigned. He's not saying don't use them at all, or he's not totally against timelines. He says in the first paragraph, in fact, that timelines are important tools and they are one of the most commonplace classroom tools. They present a concise chronology of events, so they are useful, but they are myopic, they're short-sighted maybe, they're not holistic, they're not complete. So 2 also goes out. He is cautious, very, and he is in a sense warning of the dangers involved in using them as classroom tools. Yes, in the last sentence, author does say that these are dangerous tools. So he is portentous. He is very cautious. Okay. We need, remember, for tone-based questions, for attitude-based questions like these, we need some tangible evidence in the passage for our answer. It can't just be a feeling that author feels this way. It can't be our feeling. We have to have some tangible evidence for our choice, for our selection. Okay. Option 4. He thinks that timelines are, he's negative and complacent about timelines. Negative, maybe yes, but complacent means jaisa hai, vaisa hai. He does not care. Does he not care? He has written one whole article trying to tell us about the flaws in using timeline as a classroom tool for teaching history. So of course he cares. To say that he does not care is wrong, right? Author would most likely agree with all of the following except, all right, option 1, there are more than 64 important events in American history. Will the author agree with this statement? Yes. Author says only 64 pieces of American history are presented, which means he thinks that there are more than 64 important events. Okay. Option 2, some students, author believes some students ascribe importance to prominent graphic position. Okay. He writes here that, they present a concise chronology with dates and events listed in a linear narrative. Also, he writes here, they often take a prominent position over a whiteboard or across a wall. And they are, one of the most commonplace classroom tools, therefore. If they are taking a prominent position, it implies that, students do ascribe importance to prominent graphic positions here. That is why author says it is as something which occupies that position, it is one of the most important tools. So author does think students ascribe importance to prominent graphic positions. Option 3, timelines have some positive uses. Yes, author definitely agrees with it. He says they present a concise chronology with dates and events listed in a linear narrative. And they also, They are useful in allowing students to gain a cursory knowledge of many key moments in the past. So they have some positive uses, author would agree. Unofficial histories have no merit, quite the opposite. Author criticizes the fact that timelines present history as if it is the official position. Therefore, unofficial histories have no merit. No, according to the author, unofficial histories could also have merit, is what he wants to say, if at all. So option 4 is the correct answer. According to passage, a problem with timelines is, okay, option 1, their prominent placement in classroom. That's not a problem. Author has never mentioned it as a problem. Okay. Their lack of context. Yes. That is what author says. They have a bare bone structure. They are very fact centered. And therefore they are myopic and they eclipse the significance of why and how something happened in the past. Why did it occur and how did it occur? Which means they lack context. Timelines lack context. Option 2 is the correct answer. This is alien, that they have an infinite nature and they are factually inaccurate. Author has never claimed that they are factually inaccurate. They are limited, but they are not inaccurate. So factually incorrect. Which of the following could be substituted for the word myopic in the first paragraph without changing the meaning of the passage? All right. Clearly, the meaning of the word myopic here is short-sighted. Author criticizes timelines and the entire system of education for being myopic in nature, in the sense that it is short-sighted, it is not holistic, it does not cater to or does not address all the factors, all angles, all aspects, which means parochial, which is a synonym for the word short-sighted, myopic, etc., should be the correct answer.